5 experiments. The same places, the same phones, the same kind of ordinary day. In each one, researchers changed a single line in the instructions. Some people were told they would be sharing their photos afterwards. Some were not. The people who were told they would share enjoyed the day less. Nothing else about the day was different. Same weather, same view, same amount of time. The only thing added was an audience that had not arrived yet. I want to stay with that, because I think a lot of us have noticed something about ourselves lately and filed it under the wrong heading. Here's the heading we usually use. Your camera roll is full. Your feed is empty. You took something today. You looked at it for a second and you pressed back. And if someone asked you why, you would probably say you got older or you got busy, and you would not be able to name the day it changed. By the end of this, you will have 3 things. A study that isolates the exact ingredient, 1 line of instructions at a time. A 1973 experiment with 51 children that explains why this does not switch back on its own. And 1 small thing to try tonight, which is not post more and is not delete everything. Let me start with the part that is easy to miss, which is that this is not a private habit. In June of this year, a research team surveyed 1,000 Americans, balanced by age and region over 9 days. 55% said they post less than they did 5 years ago. 53% said they had become stricter about who can see what they post. Almost half, 47%, had deleted a social or messaging app because of stress or anxiety. And then there is the line I keep coming back to. 51% agreed that keeping up an online presence feels like work. Among the youngest adults in the sample, that number was 60%. I do not think that is a complaint. I think it is an accurate description of a category. They are not saying it is hard. They are saying what kind of activity it is. And here is the strange part. In the same year that people went quiet, the internet filled up with people reposting 2016. Old filters, old poses, old songs. The BBC reported that searches for that year rose sharply on TikTok in the first weeks of January. So we have 2 symptoms that look like opposites. People leaving and people missing. I think they are pointing at the same thing, and I want to take the long way round to it. Start with the explanation we give ourselves, because it is not wrong, it is just incomplete. We say we got older. We say we got busy. We say we have less to show. But look at what did not go quiet. The group chats did not go quiet. The messages to one person did not go quiet. Most of us are saying just as much as we used to. What went quiet is one specific mode, saying something to a room. So the question is not what happened to you. The question is what happened to that mode. Which brings me back to the 5 experiments. They were run by 3 researchers, Alexandra Barasch, Zauberman, and Diehl, and published in the Journal of Consumer Research in 2018. The settings were ordinary, famous tourist sites, people on holiday, 1 virtual experience built for the lab. Everyone took photos. That was not the variable. The variable was whether you were taking them with the intention of sharing them. The people taking photos to share reported enjoying the experience less. And there is a second finding that I find more telling than the first. They were also less likely to say they would recommend that experience to a friend. So it was not only that the moment felt worse. The whole thing came out of the day rated lower. The mechanism the authors propose is not distraction. It is not that the phone got in the way because both groups had the phone. It is self-presentational concern, anxiety about how you will come across, which means something specific was happening. Somewhere in the middle of a nice afternoon, part of you left and went to stand where the audience would be standing and started looking back at you. I should be careful here about what this study does and does not show. This is consumer research about photographs. It is not a verdict on sharing in general, and it does not say that telling people things is bad for you. What it does is isolate 1 ingredient cleanly. The intention to share on its own with everything else held still costs something. Now, why does that not simply wear off? For that, I want to go back to 1973 and to a nursery school at Stanford where Mark Lepper, David Green, and Richard Nisbett ran one of the most argued about experiments in psychology. They started by watching which children already loved to draw, not children who could be talked into it, children who chose it on their own in free time when nobody was asking, 51 of them. Then they split them. 1 group was told in advance that if they drew, they would get a certificate, a good player award, with a gold seal and a ribbon. Another group got no reward at all. A third group got the certificate as a surprise with no promise beforehand. Then everyone went back to normal nursery school life, and a week or 2 later the researchers just watched free play again, with no awards anywhere in the room. The children who had been promised the certificate spent 8.5% of their free time drawing. The children who were promised nothing spent almost 17%, roughly half. The timing is what makes this a finding at all. The reward was already gone. Nobody was handing out anything. The drop showed up after the incentive had been removed. The drawing had not become harder. The markers were the same markers. What changed was which column the activity was filed in. It had been moved from the things I do to the things I do for something, and when the something disappeared, it did not move back on its own. Now I have to be honest about this literature because it is contested, and you deserve to know that from me rather than from the comments. In 1994, Judy Cameron and David Pierce pooled 96 experiments and concluded that rewards do not generally damage motivation and that the negative effect is narrow. In 1999, Edward Desai, Richard Kusner, and Richard Ryan pooled 128 experiments and concluded the opposite, that the undermining is widespread, with tangible expected rewards producing effects around 1/5 to 2/5 of a standard deviation. They disagree about how wide it is, but there is a narrow strip of ground both sides agree on, and it happens to be exactly the strip we are standing on. Expected, tangible, given for something you already wanted to do. And I need to name the gap because it would be easy to slide past it. Nobody has run this experiment on likes. A number under a post is not a certificate with a gold seal, and I am reasoning by analogy, not reading it off a chart. What I can say is that the shape matches, and that the shape is worth knowing. So look at what a feed actually installs all at once. A fixed audience, which is always there whether or not you've thought about it today. A visible number attached to the thing you made, and an expectation of maintenance, which is the quiet one. The sense that a gap is itself a message. That is not a conspiracy, and I do not want to hand you a villain here. Those three things are also the reasons any of this works at all. The audience is how you found people who think like you. The number is how anything gets carried further than your own street. I have found things I needed to do all of it, and so have you. I'm only pointing out that those three ingredients put together are also the standard recipe for turning something voluntary into something that is owed. Which brings me to what I think we actually lost, and it is not the posting. In 1959, the sociologist Irving Goffman published a book arguing that ordinary social life works like theater, not as an insult. His point was that performing is not a character flaw. It is just what people do in front of other people, and that it is mostly a kindness. You do it at work, at dinner, at the doctor. But the part of his argument that matters tonight is the second half. A performance needs a front region, and it needs a back region. The back region is where the impression the performance is creating gets openly contradicted as a matter of course, and everyone present knows it. Not a place where you are more honest exactly. A place where it does not count. The kitchen behind the restaurant, the car after the party, the group chat during the meeting. The internet did not abolish the backstage by banning it. It did something quieter. It made every region potentially a front region. Anything can be screenshotted, resurfaced, quoted back to you in a year. So the backstage stopped being a place and became a thing you have to maintain by being careful. In 2011, Alice Marwick and Dana Boyd described the other half of this, studying how people talk on Twitter. They called it context collapse. Everyone you know, folded into one room. Your colleagues and your school friends and your family and a stranger, all standing in the same audience for the same sentence. And when the audience is that mixed, you cannot picture it, so you write to an imagined one instead, which sounds harmless until you notice what an imagined audience is like. It is never in a good mood. It is never busy. It never gives you the benefit of the doubt, because it does not have a doubt. It only has an opinion. I have written whole messages to that imagined person and then deleted them, and I could not tell you who I thought was reading. So now, the nostalgia. I do not think anyone genuinely misses the filters, and I noticed something in the coverage of that trend that I think is worth saying out loud. A writer at Vogue pointed out that the nostalgia carefully skipped the politics of that year. So this is not a memory of a better world. It is selective the way nostalgia always is. But when you read what people actually name, they mostly name the same thing, and it is not aesthetic. It is that you did not have to think so much before you said something. The post was not a deliverable. It was closer to talking. What is being missed is not a year. It is a condition that there was still somewhere that did not count. Now let me be very clear about what I am not saying, because this is the part I would get wrong if I were listening instead of talking. I am not telling you to post more. Most of the time, not posting is the right call, and the 53% who got stricter about their audience are not hiding. They are doing something sensible. If keeping up a presence feels like work, that is because for many people it now is work, and treating it as work is the accurate response, not the defeated one. The loss is not the posting. The loss is that when the posting went, the unwatched version of the activity often went with it. We stopped taking the photo instead of taking the photo and keeping it. So here's the practice, and there are 3 doors into it. You only need 1. The first is the one the researchers themselves suggest. Take it for keeping, not for showing. Or if that feels false, delay the sharing question until afterwards. Not never share. Just do not let the sharing decision be in the room while the thing is happening. The second is to send it to one person instead of a room. This is the one I use. One person is not an audience. One person is a reader, with a name and a mood and a history with you, and the imagined critic cannot survive contact with an actual human being who already likes you. The third is to do the thing once with the scoreboard turned off, not forever. Once. Write the thing and do not publish it. Make the thing and do not photograph it. You are not testing your discipline. You are checking whether the activity still has a version that runs without an audience, because that is the version that got quiet. The variable here is not willpower. It is whether a place exists that does not count, and it is frequency, not intensity. One unwatched hour, more than once, does more than one grand gesture about quitting the internet. Let me go back to where we started. The people in that study did not have a worse day. That is what I keep thinking about. They had the same day. Same light, same view, same hours. The only difference was that part of them had already left to go and watch. You have not run out of things to say. You have just been saying all of them in a room where everything counts. Find one where it does not. That is all this is. Thanks for spending this time with me. I will see you on the porch.